Welcome to Sideline Guideline.
Hot topics,
News,
fantasy football,
betting,
weekly recaps,
projections,
rankings.
injuries.
Your one-stop shop for everything football.
Welcome to Sideline Guideline, Week 7 preview. Yeah. We're going to Week 7, bye-week hell. We got Drizzy Drake with us, as always. How you doing, bud?
Terrific. Just a little update, as always, like I'd like to do, 12-0 in my two money leagues. So, fantasy genius, baby.
Yeah, you know what they say, eh? Sucks to suck. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. First thing I just want to talk about, man, is big-time baller Dearness Johnson. Now, I know that O-line, even with a couple of backups starting, did an amazing job, man. When they broke it down at halftime on their zone blocking, I've almost never seen zone blocking done so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, the dude was so shifty. He was making people miss. He was making people look silly. Like that one time that he was going against Patrick Surtain, and it was like a tackle for a loss, and then he just jimmied his way out of it and got a first down. Impressive, man. LeBron was talking about it too.
Yeah, I texted you during the game, and I was like, damn, like this guy might be legit. I don't know what they do with him, because obviously if you have like Nick Chubb's a stud, right? Yeah. He's a stud, and Kareem Hunt still a stud, right? If those guys are back and they're healthy, there's not a whole lot of ways for you to mix him into the offense. So somebody's got to get traded, right? I could see Cleveland making a move on one of those running backs. I don't know who. But if it is Dearness Johnson, for example, if he goes to another team that's maybe a little bit more running back hungry, he's a guy for sure, fantasy-wise, you want to stash that guy. Because one way or another, either Cleveland's going to be getting that guy involved, or they're going to trade him somewhere else and he's going to get involved there. Huge performance.
He's just way too freaking good. So, all right. So now we're going to go into the bye week hell. All right. So let me just pull out just to have it in front of me. The teams that are on bye this week. So on bye, you got Buffalo, Dallas, Jacksonville, Chargers, Vikings, Steelers. Not only it's a lot of freaking team on bye, and also I'm pretty sure next week there's only 2 teams on bye. So NFL, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, let's just say NFL does not care about your fantasy team. They do not, right? In my money league, in our money league, actually, we're both in that league for redraft. I have this week Mike Williams, CeeDee Lamb, and Josh Allen, 3 of my stars all on bye at once, right? So you have to, like, as a fantasy player, you have to look at your team. You got to be like, all right, I'm going to take an L this week, probably. Yeah. Don't drop a bunch of players. Like the one thing I was looking at, like I had to drop my kicker, who is, Tyler Bass from Buffalo. And I liked having him because, I have Josh Allen in that league, right? But that was the only guy that I dropped. Everyone else, like my entire bench is on bye. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bench spots. Every single player is on bye. So I'm running bare bones, like emergency backups on my fantasy team. I'm probably taking an L this week, and I'm probably losing my undefeated record. But what am I not doing? I'm not dropping anybody that's going to hurt me down the road. The last thing you want to do is end up losing somebody that could win you fantasy games later on in the year. Even if you're not 6-0, if you're 3-3. Right. Yeah. Going to 3-4 is not so bad. It's not as bad as maybe losing somebody that might end up helping you get into the playoffs and win your league. So, if you're like me or like many other people and you're struggling with this bye week hell that the NFL created for us, well, take that L.
Yeah, man, I fully agree, man. Don't like at a certain point, don't drop players that you like and that you could potentially use for like. Because let's be honest, like what's going to be available on the free agency and on the waivers isn't that tasty. At this point, if you're in a 12-team league, free agency ain't looking that great, and you got 7 teams on bye. So also like, there's not a lot of options out there. So if you're gonna have to start like dropping some valuable bench players or even starters to get you your replacement, don't do that. Just take the L and live to fight another day, man.
Pretty much, right? I honestly can't think of another time that I had this much of a buy problem in fantasy. Like you said, NFL, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you trying to kill everybody with this bye week here?
Yeah, man.
It's
In
bad.
one of my leagues, I have Dak, Dalton Schultz, Marvin Jones, and I can't remember someone else on bye. And I used
Yeah.
to have Najee too, so I would have had Najee, but then I pulled that trade last week. Yeah, man. A lot
Yeah.
of people like getting ready for this episode, like just to figure out which players to talk about. I was going through like the different matchups and stuff, like in my different leagues. And I was literally looking at people's bench, and people's bench right now in all my leagues, like almost every single team is like 3 to 5 players on bye on their
Yeah.
bench, man. It's crazy. It's just really
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Well,
Especially with all the injuries that we've been had in, man. Injuries plus 7 teams on bye, man. It's a crazy week, but let's try to we'll try to help you survive through it and get through it, and maybe get a W with some bench players. Who knows? And next topic that you wanted to bring up, Mr. Deshaun Watson. There is a lot of the rumor mill this week about his trade. The rumors were making it sound like it was imminent. After that, there was reports that trade talks are real, but they're no way near being real. But you had something to say, so I'll let you take it.
yeah, I mean, look, the rumors appear to be that he's going to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins head coach has stated his support for Tua Tagovailoa, but as we know, that's kind of what you have to say, right? If they can get Deshaun Watson, I think they will, and I think the price is going to be cheap because of his legal issues. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but let's say those legal issues, they don't look too good for him, right? But the reason I wanted to bring him up is because he's only owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues right now. 20%. That's it.
He's not going to play.
Well, if he gets traded to Miami, you don't think he's going to play? I think he would.
Play. He's not allowed to play by the league. That's the thing.
He's not on the exempt list.
I'm pretty sure he is.
As far as I know, he's not on the exempt list right now. They've had him listed for Miami, not even on IR. They've had him listed as like just not available personal reasons. Right? The league hasn't suspended him yet. So my thinking is basically, if you have a top 10 quarterback, a good top 10 fantasy quarterback, you're not looking at him at all. Obviously, don't, right? But if you're one of those teams, like let's say you're struggling a little bit more at the quarterback position, right? If you've started a guy like Baker Mayfield all this year, I'm going to guess that you're probably not too strong at QB. You don't have a top 10, right? So take a bench spot. Pick up Deshaun Watson, hold him there for a couple of weeks and see what happens, right? If this trade pans out and he goes to Miami, Miami's not exactly an offensive powerhouse whatsoever, but they've got interesting targets, right? Parker's an interesting target. Jalen Waddle, he looks like he's going to be a star at the wide receiver position.
Yep.
Mike Gesicki, been a little bit disappointing this year, but he's still, I think, a very good tight end. This puts Deshaun Watson in a situation where he's got interesting targets if, of course, he's able to play and he gets that trade. So, this could be a guy, again, down the stretch run. If you don't have a good quarterback, this could be a guy that might end up helping you get into the playoffs and maybe win your league. So, I'm good at quarterback in all my leagues, but if I wasn't, I'm using a bench spot on him right now, especially if I've got somebody that I'm really not using that's kind of sitting there, maybe a player that's getting 4, 5, 6 fantasy points a week. Screw that guy. I'm going to drop him. I'm going to pick up Deshaun Watson. I'm going to hold him. I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah, so first of all, I really don't think that trade is happening, just because even with the legal issues, the Texans team, the Houston Texans have stated that they are still looking for minimum 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. No one is going to pay that, not knowing if this dude is going to jail. And second of all, man, if Miami did pull that trade, and man, that's so early to give up on a quarterback that you drafted like 4th overall last year. And like he came back from that rib injury last week. Like, yes, they lost to Jacksonville, but he looked good in that game and he was making some good decisions. I think that Miami should just freaking focus on their defensive side of the ball, trying to get Byron Jones healthy, trying to get Xavier Howard healthy. Last year, they were one of the best teams on 3rd down. This year, they are the worst team in the NFL on 3rd down. They've allowed the most first down conversion on third down more than any other team. So maybe like stop bitching about your quarterback that's been kind of half decent, and get your defensive coordinator to kick some butt at practice and make these dudes freaking play for something, you know? At a certain point, like what did they lost that London game? They scored like I think 28 or 30 point. 28 or 30 point is a pretty good show off from your offense. You're letting Jacksonville outscore you when you scored 28, 30 points. Now that for me is just a huge problem on defense. It's nothing to do with that offense. That offense was rolling. Tua was making some nice throws. So that's where I'm going to keep it. I mean, like you said, it's not a bad idea if the trade might happen by some kind of miracle, and you suck at quarterback, then yeah, man, go do it. But
it's a Hail Mary, right? It's a Hail Mary. Do it, don't do it, right? Just something to think about.
Yeah. I mean, just do it or don't do it, man. All right. So we're going to go into our segment of over, under. And we're going to start with A.J. Brown versus Kansas City. 13.87 fantasy points and half PPR. Do you take over or the under?
I'm taking the over. Honestly, Kansas City's defense looked a lot better last week than they have throughout the season. So it's tempting to take the under on that one because AJ Brown's been a little bit underwhelming this season. But I'm taking the over on this one. I think that Kansas City, their run D is bad, and they're going to be stacking the box. And we know why they're stacking the box, right? King Henry's going to be playing, and that man is unstoppable. So they're going to have to do everything they can to stop him. And I think that that's going to leave some opportunities for Ryan Tannehill to go over the top when they're bringing the defense in to deal with that gigantic running back that they have. So I think he's he's primed for a good game. I'd take the over.
Yeah, man, I'd take the over too. I think as you might have seen in the document that we got in the episode ready, I think this is going to be his breakout game. I think this is when A.J. Brown reestablishes himself as a top fantasy receiver for pretty much the same reason as you just mentioned. But also he's a competitor and he's a great receiver. So I think he himself wants to put a good game out there. So I'm going on the over. We're going to go with Miles Sanders versus Las Vegas, 11.49.
Under.
Under, eh?
I had Miles Sanders. I had to execute a trade to give away my first overall, my first round, not my first overall pick in Dynasty next year, just to get rid of him and get Joe Mixon. I don't believe in Miles Sanders very much. Honestly, it's scary how much Kenneth Gainwell has been vulturing from him this year. And I think that game is going to turn into a bit of a shootout, honestly. I don't think Philly's defense is going to have much of an answer for Las Vegas. I could be wrong about that, but I think that game's going to get a little bit high scoring, and I think that it's going to result in a lot of throwing. And the other problem with Miles Sanders is when you have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that likes to run the ball, he's not getting the red zone carries that he normally would, right? Yeah. So how is he supposed to get over that? Like, I'm surprised they even projected him that high. I mean, it's 11.49, right? No. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I mean, all valid points, but I'm going to go with the over just because last week against Tampa Bay, it finally seemed like their freaking coaching staff just realized, hey, this guy that we drafted, he can run the ball, eh? If you give him the ball, he can run it. Like, Miles Sanders has been sucky in fantasy because he's been getting like 3 or 4 carries a game. And it's not like because they're all giving it to Gainwell. Gainwell is also getting like 3-4 carries a game. They've just been running the ball like less than 10 times a game, like less than 10, 15 times a game, which is so stupid. And last week they were getting destroyed by the Bucks, and they started to decide to run against that stud front seven of the Bucks. And Sanders got like on 4 carries, he got like 50, 60 yards. I mean, the guy still has juice. And I don't know, man, I'm not too confident in that Las Vegas defense. I do agree that it's going to be a shootout. But again, the thing holding back is going to be the coaching staff for Philly. But if he gets his usage, he's going to eat. And it looked like last week they just realized that they can finally use him and give him some fucking carries. So we're looking forward to that. But I'm going the over. All right, so we're gonna go into Khalil Herbert versus Tampa Bay Bucks, 8.6. Where you going?
Again, I'm going under. I think Tampa is taking that game. I think the game script's not going to be favorable, and that Tampa D, we know what they can do. So,
For
short
sure.
one, under.
I was initially going to take the over just because man had balled out last week, and he looked really good, and he looked like he can catch, he can run, and he's super fast. He can go on the outside, which is usually where you have the most success against Tampa Bay. You're trying to get away from those big guys on that line.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is literally like 20, 30 minutes ago, they just activated Damian Williams from the COVID list. So he's back.
Oh.
So we have no idea what his usage is going to be. So huge fucking under.
Yeah.
Huge under on that one. All right. In the same game, Allen Robinson versus Tampa Bay, 9.59. Where are you going with that?
On that, I'm going over. I mean, let's face it, Chicago's offense is pretty hapless, but Tampa Bay's pass defense, not great, right? They're fantastic against the run, not so good against the pass. So number one, same thing that we said for Khalil Herbert, right? Game script. I think Tampa's probably going to take this one by a pretty big score. So they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and Allen Robinson is their best receiver. So over.
Yeah, man. Over two. I think it's just like AJ Brown. It's that game that Allen Robinson is going to be back, let's say, in quotes. He's going to be back because he's had a horrible season. And I also think that this is like Justin Fields' coming out party. I think he's going to come out in this one and he's going to ball out. He's going to need to use his legs to get away from that pass rush. And like you said, that pass defense ain't good. And corners, usually when you have corners, aren't that great. And they see a quarterback that can run as fast as Justin Field does, and he breaks out of the pocket, usually they're going to leave their guy unattended. They'll make bad decisions. So then that opens up for the deep throws. And we've seen that Justin Fields can sling it, but it also comes back again, like we almost say every single freaking week. It falls on Matt Nagy being able to call a freaking game, which he hasn't seemed to be able to do like in 3-4 years he's been with the Bears. I don't know how he still has a job, but I'm hitting the over on Allen Robinson. All right, now we got Elijah Mitchell versus Indianapolis, 10.65. Over or under?
Oof. This one's tough. Because the Colts D is, a lot stingier than I thought they were going to be. I'm taking the under. Mitchell's averaging like 10.6 fantasy points per game. And this is one of the tougher Ds. So I'm taking the under here. I really think that that defense is better than I thought they were going to be. And I don't think this is a good matchup for him. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like him. I like the way he runs, but also what doesn't help is rumors are JaMychal Hasty is going to be activated for this weekend. So that probably what's going to happen is Trey Sermon is going to go back to being a healthy scratch. What a disappointment. But yeah, man. So I'm also taking the under. I've actually picked up JaMychal Hasty in a couple of leagues just because JaMychal Hasty is such a safe value and Kyle Shanahan knows it. JaMychal Hasty has taken the load whenever, every time Mostert gets injured, which is pretty much all the freaking time. But yeah, so I'm going under on that one. All right. In the same game, we got Michael Pittman Jr. versus San Fran, 11.13. Over or under?
Another tough one, right? It looks like, it's pretty much guaranteed because my boy, Trey Lance is not going to be playing this week. He's out with a knee injury, so it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo back at quarterback. But I don't Pittman. We're talking about the Colts. Pittman. We're not talking about what am I talking about here? Pittman, Carson Wentz. Yeah, look, I think it depends if San Fran's defense is able to get to Carson Wentz at all. If they're able to get to him, then it's going to change things, right? But I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. He's having a good season, and I think that they're going to find him.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. Mr. Band-Aid T.Y. Hilton played one game and is back to being injured. He's already declared out for this weekend. So Pittman is going to be their only option. So I think Pittman eats in that one. All right. Again, in the same game. So excited. Brendan Ayuk, Mr. Disappointment at 10.63.
Yeah, this is who I was looking at on the list and why I started talking about the quarterbacks in San Francisco because I'm an idiot. Jimmy Garoppolo's back, and I think that this is going to help Brandon Ayuk. I really do. I'm taking the over. Honestly, I think that the Colts D is a little bit stingy. I don't think same thing that we mentioned about Elijah Mitchell earlier, well, that I mentioned anyways, that I think that he's going to have trouble getting the running game going against them. I think as a result, they're going to end up trying to find things through the air. I think he's probably going to get a lot of targets. I don't know if he's going to score, but I think that a heavy target volume for Ayuk is probably in the books. And yeah, I think that'll get him over the 10.63 that they're predicting.
I'm going to take the under. I mean, it's not that I don't like the guy. It's just that he hasn't been living up to expectations, and I don't think this is his coming out party for this year. I think that Jimmy G has looked like he prefers Debo by a whole lot. And also I just traded for Debo first week playing him. So I want Debo to eat. So I'm taking the under. All right. Now we got Calvin Ridley versus Miami at 14.04. What you got?
I've got the under on this one. I think I honestly don't think he's going to hit that. I think he's been injured a little bit this year. I don't necessarily think he's going to have a massive game. I'm taking the under. The next guy on our list is the guy I think is going to be over.
He missed the game for personal reasons.
I thought he was injured. I thought that's what he missed for.
No, that's personal. Okay. He didn't make the London trip for personal reasons.
Well, let's say I don't know what I'm talking about, but I got a feeling in this game that he's not going to be the guy who ends up getting the most action in terms of the receivers. I think the next guy we're going to talk about is going to get more action than he will, who's coming back for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over on Ridley. I think it's his reestablishing himself as a big time guy. And also Byron Jones and Xavier Howard are both going to be out. So it's looking like it. All right. So we're going to go into the guy that you were mentioning and you think is going to eat. We got Russell Gage again against Miami at 7.88. I'm guessing you're taking the over, right?
I'm taking the over. He's coming back. I think Matt Ryan stands to have a really good fantasy day against Miami. I think a lot of people are saying he might be the start of the week at quarterback. And I really think Russell Gage is going to benefit from that. I think Calvin Ridley is going to draw a lot of attention. That's why I think he's going to be getting the under. And I think Russell Gage coming back, I think they're going to feed him. And I think he's probably maybe he won't get as many targets as Calvin Ridley because he's not their wide receiver one. But I think, you know, if Calvin Ridley ends up drawing that attention, Miami doesn't have the personnel to deal with multiple receivers, really. Their defense is just not that good right now without a healthy Xavier Howard, for example, or Byron Jones. So I'm taking the over. I think that's a low projection. I think this is a guy that could end up being a good sleeper start this week.
I'm kind of torn on that one. I'd kind of say like on par, like he's either going to be under by a point or over by a point on that one. I think it's a pretty fair assessment coming back from 3-4 weeks being out. Again, Miami is not that great, but I think it's Calvin Ridley that's going to eat Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts that are going to eat on Sunday. We got one more player from that game, Mr. Myles Gaskin at 7.70.
Yeah, that's a low projection, but I'm still taking the under. I don't believe in Myles Gaskin. I don't believe in their in the Miami Dolphins offense very much. And I think ATL's run defense is pretty decent. You know, they got Grady Jarrett who can really get into the backfield, disrupt things a little bit. let's face it, Myles Gaskin, people who drafted him in fantasy, they're pretty goddamn disappointed with what he's done so far this season. And I think they're going to continue to be disappointed this week against Atlanta. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, man. Check on your friends that drafted Myles Gaskin. They need your emotional support. Man, this one is so like Miami doesn't repeat the same type of usage between a running back. One game it's Malcolm Brown, the other one is Salvin Ahmed, and then the other one is Myles Gaskin. It seems like he might be due for a game, but I don't trust it. I don't trust that coach, so I'm gonna go with the under on that one. All right, now we got a good one coming up. James Conner versus Houston at 1166.
Yeah, this one you got to smash the over on that, right? I think what are the Cardinals favored by? They're favored by like 14 points or something stupid like that.
Yeah, like
the Cardinals are going to destroy the Houston Texans, and I mean, like this is going to be probably one of the least competitive games that we've seen all season in the NFL. And what's going to happen? Well, obviously, when they jump out to that lead, the Cardinals, they're not going to risk their receivers. They're not going to risk DeAndre Hopkins. They're not going to risk Kyler Murray. They're going to be very conservative. They're going to run the ball a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So when they start running the ball a lot, what's going to happen? I mean, Chase Edmonds probably going to have a decent game. And of course, if you don't want to risk your RB1 either, then you're going to feed your second guy. So James Conner, he's going to eat. We're talking garbage time points, ridiculous amount of garbage time points. So for sure, I think he's getting over that 11.66 with ease.
Yeah, I'm taking the over too. Even if I don't like James Conner as a running back, I still think that the fact that Chase Edmonds has been dealing with a shoulder injury for the last like 2-3 weeks, like that he doesn't fully practice all week. And he's definitely
you don't want to risk him.
He's definitely their best running back when it comes to all around skills. So exactly, you don't want to risk him. Put that James Conner kid in and just make him run the ball 20 to 30 times, which I think, like, I'm not even exaggerating saying that he might run the ball between 20 and 30 times during this game. So he's definitely going to get the over. All right, next we got one quite exciting. Sam Darnold's comeback in New York City, not against the Jets, but against the Giants. First time playing back in New York since the trade. He is projected 19.19.
I'm taking the over. Sam Darnold's putting together a pretty good season. He seems to be proving that, maybe. Obviously, I think the Adam Gase effect over in New York was a significant problem in terms of him being able to be a good quarterback. Looks a heck of a lot better in Carolina. I'm taking the over. I think Giants D is another D. They're better than I thought they would be, but I don't see them holding Sam Darnold to under 19 fantasy points. I think he's probably going to be in the mid-20s. Over.
Yeah. I mean, like, so Sam Darnold has kind of had a slump recently. In the last 2 games, he hasn't been that great, but I think he's coming back on top in this one. He's a big-time player. He's going to be able to run. Like you said, that defense, Giants, is better than we expected, but it's still no bueno, and they have a lot of freaking injuries. So I think I'm definitely hitting the over. I think he's going to maybe rush for one and pass for a couple at least. All right, now we're going into your boy, Chris Godwin versus the Bears, 14.37.
This one's tough, man, because like Chris Godwin is one of the, like, I'd say he's a top 20 receiver in the league. The problem is he kind of gets buried in Tampa's offense, right? They got so many weapons, but Gronkowski's confirmed to be out again this week. So that opens up a couple more targets.
Brown too.
Sorry, who?
I think Antonio Brown is also declared out already.
Antonio Brown has COVID, or he's out because of COVID related. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but that opens up some of the targets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Godwin's biggest knock is that he's kind of getting buried in that offense. With two of Tom Brady's favorite targets out, he's going to be looking at Chris Godwin a lot, especially on third down. You see when Tom Brady on third down, he's often looking that way. So I think he's going to have a big game, and I take the over on that one.
Yeah, man. I'm taking the over too, just because of everything we said. Tom Brady missing a couple of his top options. So I'm going to go with the over. All right, now we got Dallas Goedert coming back from the COVID for the first time ever. Not having Zach Ertz behind him, not like even when he was injured, like now he is the man in Philly. They've made a statement. They want this dude to be the dude leading their offense at tight end. So what are you doing? He's projected at 8.42. Where are you going with that one?
Smash that over, right? Finally, he doesn't have Zach Ertz, the vulture, snaps from him. So he's probably going to get pretty heavy snap count, right? You probably, I don't know, is he going to be on like what, 80% of offensive snaps? Probably pretty close to it, which means that, it's going to be a long day for him. He's going to be out there a lot. And Las Vegas does not have an excellent defense. So I think 8.42, that's a pretty easy one for him to get over. Absolutely over.
I think he's going to finish the season as one of the best tight ends now that Ertz is out. Goddard is very talented. The goddamn Eagles drafted him, traded up to draft him right before the Cowboys because they knew the Cowboys were looking for a tight end. And his name is Dallas too, man. They sneak the best, like the perfect tight end for Dallas out of it. But can't fault him. He got drafted there. He had to go play there. He probably won rather play in a real team like the Cowboys. But I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. This is too easy. He's definitely going to get at least 4 or 5 catches and most probably a touchdown. So I think he's going to destroy these numbers. All righty then. Let's go into J.D. McKissick at Green Bay, 8.08. What are you doing?
This is another one. I've got the over. J.D. McKissick is sneaky. Sneaky. Right? And I think they're going to be down in that game. I really don't think that Washington's going to have a very fun day against Green Bay. I'm starting the Green Bay defense actually in both of my money leagues because I think that the Green Bay defense is probably going to do quite well. But what does that mean? If they're down a lot, J.D. McKissick gets a lot of those passing downs as a running back. And he's shifty. He can take, a quick pass into the flats and he can take that thing for 15, 20 yards. He does that 3 or 4 times a game pretty often. So saying that he's going to get over 8.08, I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that's going to be pretty easy for him to do. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, that's my
I'm taking the over too for everything that you just said, but also even if they're saying that Gibson is probably going to play, he's dealing with a lingering like stress fracture in his shin, which is no bueno when you're a running back. So man, there's a big chance that Gibson is going to be in and out of that game if he even plays. So yeah, definitely the over. All right, so now we're going to go into our start of the week. We each picked one. Go ahead and deliver yours.
Well, mine should be a pretty obvious one. I obviously you're not going to sit this guy, right? But my start of the week, he's going to be a game winner for you. He's going to be Derrick Henry, right? We saw what he did last week against the Buffalo Bills. A pretty good defense, right? Did you see that run he made? What was it, like 70 yards, 80 yards, something like that? Where he literally, the separation that he was getting against defensive backs, he's built like a defensive end and he's getting separation from defensive backs in the open field. There was a case on that particular play that I think there was maybe a little bit of a hold by their O-line, but if you're just looking at Derrick Henry and what he does, he crushed one of the better defenses. If he was going to have a week off for fantasy, it would have been against Buffalo, right? Yeah. So you take him against KC. Again, like we mentioned earlier, I think they're going to stack the box and they're going to try to do whatever they can to stop him. But let's face it, you can't stop him. He's ridiculous.
Yeah, man, he's so ridiculous. Like that run that you were mentioning, like when I saw that, like I saw Ricky Williams, but a defensive end size Ricky Williams, because Ricky Williams, that was his style, man. He was physical, but then as soon as he got in a straight line and started sprinting, you are not catching him. And Derrick Henry was his straight line speed last week on that run. I was amazed, man, because like you said, like when he started sprinting in a straight line, there was corners on both sides converging on him, and then he just gone. He was gone. So, yeah, man, I agree with your start. Mine is going to be Darrell Henderson Jr. Versus Detroit. Henderson has shown, man, that he is a baller and that he can carry the rock when while Akers is injured. And also Detroit is just so bad. Like so bad. So that's my start of the week.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that one, honestly. Yours is maybe a little bit less obvious than mine, right? But I think those are both two running backs that are going to eat on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. And realistically, you're not benching any of these guys.
Enjoy watching your team win.
When we say our start of the week, is the guys that we think are going to eat the most. So So if you're playing daily fantasy, trying to shove both of these dude in your lineup,
if you can.
Yeah. All right. So sit of the week. Go ahead, buddy.
This one is going to be a little bit of a shocker, right? And my start of the week is absolutely not a shocker. But my sit of the week is a bit of one. I'm sitting Joe Burrow. The Ravens, surprisingly enough, I didn't think that this was going to be the case, but they're giving up just 20.5 points per game this season, which is actually 7th in the league. They were pretty great last week. And Burrow has actually struggled against the Ravens last season. He threw for, pull up my stats, 183 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception in Cincinnati's loss last October. They lost 27-3. I'm putting him on my bench this week. I think he's having a great year. And I think, if you got him in fantasy, you're probably doing okay. He's not a bad option to have. There are better quarterbacks out there, but let's face it, he's been doing pretty well. But I think this is a week where you want to keep him on the bench. You might want to look at some other options. Matt Ryan's been sitting out there in the waiver wire. Hopefully you pick him up and put him in your lineup instead of Joe Burrow, because I really do not think he's going to be even in the top 15 of quarterbacks this week for fantasy. So it's a bad week for him, and you should sit him.
I mean, I'm not sure about that one because just because this dude is being mentioned with my boy Dak in the MVP conversation, I think Joe Burrow is playing lights out. I think he's going to light out that defense. Although that being said, the real MVP candidate is your boy Dak. Holla at your boy Dak, MVP 2021.
Hey PL.
Wow.
Hey PL.
Wow.
MVPs can get knocked out too.
Okay.
MVPs can get knocked out too, baby.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go in mine. So bear with me. So he's not a big name, big name ticket item, but still that offense had for over 100 rushing yards last week. I'm talking about Alex Collins for Seattle. He's been questionable. Rashad Penny's coming back. DJ Dallas seems to be featured. So I'm benching Alex Collins, and I'm benching any running back from that Seattle offense until further notice, because who knows what's going to happen with Rashad Penny coming back, right? Yeah,
I 100% agree with you on that. I actually picked up Rashad Penny in Dynasty because I wanted to stash him on my bench, but I'm definitely not starting him this week. It's a wait and see thing. I'm putting him on my bench just to see what happens, because you cannot trust that running back situation right now. You got to kind of wait and see what it is that they do and who emerges as maybe the guy who's going to take over the reins there. And with obviously until Russell Wilson gets back, that offense in general is kind of hard to trust, right?
Yep.
So for sure, I would absolutely sit. I'd sit Alex Collins. I'd sit everybody else in that running back room too.
For sure. All right. So now we're going to go into our sleeper start of the week. Go ahead and give me yours.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier, and I'm going with James Conner. James Conner, not been doing a whole lot fantasy-wise this week, but again, everything I said earlier, right? The Cardinals are going to dominate that game. I don't see any path to Houston making this thing competitive. So game script favors the running backs on that team. I think at some point Kyler Murray's coming out of that game. They're going to get up by so much that they're going to go, all right, we don't need to see any more from you. I'm not risking your health against a team that we have zero chance of losing to. And then they're going to be running the ball a lot. And I think same thing you mentioned earlier about Chase Edmonds dealing with a little bit of, he's a little bit banged up, not so banged up that he's not going to play. But when you get into a game, when you're absolutely dominating them and you got a route going on, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep that guy in the game? You're going to keep him running? No, you're not. You're going to put in your second guy and you're going to let that guy take the reins a little bit. So James Conner probably going to get at more carries than he's had in any other game this year. And it's going to be probably his best fantasy game of the week. So again, remember, it's bye week hell right now. So this is a guy, if you've got him on your bench, throw him in. You probably got some people that are on bye week, throw him in there. And absolutely, this is a guy that can carry you through your bye week hell.
Yeah, I think he's in for a 20, 30-point game. But I'll go with my sleeper. It is Shia boy, OJ Howard, tight end, Bucks versus the Bears, man. I'm taking him as my sleeper. Like you said, Gronk is out. Antonio Brown is out. Last week, we saw that OJ Howard was getting more snap, and Tom Brady was looking at him a whole lot. OJ Howard almost had 2 touchdowns last week. He ended up with only 1. That's still pretty good. So he's my sleeper of the week, man. I think he's going to eat. This dude is a freak of an athlete. He was just in a bad situation with Jameis Winston, and then he got a bad injury. So, yeah, I think this last week was kind of showing that he can still do it. And I think this week is going to show that he is the man, and that people should be scared, and defenses should put a lot of attention on OJ Howard.
I agree. Gronk being out means that he's probably the guy at tight end, and we know Touchdown Tommy likes his tight ends, so start him.
He sure does love a tight end. All right, so that was it for Week 7 preview. Thank you for watching, but if I can just give you a piece of advice, if you have lineup questions or anything like that, come hit us up on socials, but also follow us on socials, because last week I posted 2 parlays on our Insta, and they both hit. So people that followed us on these parlays that we put up, they're making money. So if you want to make money, go follow us at Sideline Guide, and we'll try to hook you up with some prop bets, anything we got to put a little money in your pocket. You know, Christmas is around the corner. You want to make a little extra money? Get on to betting with your boys at Sideline Guidelines. So thank you for watching. Go follow us, and enjoy your Week 7 bye week hell, and hopefully you survive it. So always great to have you, Drake, and peace out.